through the economy. A lot of that money hit our people because we got smart people out here. And one of the smartest brothers out here that's really doing his thing is Mr. Lawrence Eggleston. And I'll give Lawrence a chance to hit the unmute button so he can kind of tell you to introduce himself. And Lawrence, man, how you doing, brother? Can you hear me?
Yes, sir. I'm doing well. How about yourself?
Doing very good, man. Very good. Yeah. So you are how old are you, by the way?
Yeah, I'm 20. I'm 25. Crazy, right?
25. Man, I think I met you at Invest Fest. And at that
Mhm.
time, how old were you when I met you at Invest Fest?
I would say the first year that we crossed paths, I want to say I was like 22, 23, but then I know we reconnected this past year, so I was 24 when we got reconnected.
Really? Okay. That's really cool, man. Yeah. I was real impressed, and I know you were real supporter of the black community. I know you're down in Atlanta doing amazing things, and you and I have been talking for a long time about meeting and chopping it up and working together. So here we are.
Yep, and here we are in the flesh for sure.
That's
Yes, sir.
crazy. That's crazy. All right, so let's start with your background, man.
Mhm.
Who are you? Where are you from? How'd you get to where you are right now?
Yeah, so realistically, I started kind of investing. I'm originally from New York, so I moved down to Atlanta when I was about 13. So I spent like my first 13 years actually being actually based out of New York. So eventually my mom, she wanted to move down here to Georgia. So I came to Georgia seventh grade. So started school here in seventh grade, finished, went through middle school, went through high school. And then I really got my investment and trading start really when I was a senior in high school. So I got my first job when I was 15. So I was always good as far as like saving money. I always felt like I had a young entrepreneurial spirit, right? At a young age of me wanting to, make sure I took charge of really my finances. And then I kind of fell into the markets just by studying economics. The
Hmm.
wealthiest people that I've seen, they all either invested, in either stocks, real estate, or owned businesses and had started up companies. So for me, that was what really caught my mind. I'm like, hey, at senior year, you're kind of already set in stone, right? What you're kind of going to do next. Either you plan to go in the workforce, you plan to go to the military, you're planning to go to college. You kind of already have an idea. For me, I know I was getting ready to go to college. But at the same time, I was like, college is super important. I still ended up going to college. But I was like, I want a skill set. And that was one thing that stuck out to me. So by me studying economics, which most high schoolers take economics either in 11th or 12th grade, just depending on where you're at, I realized, like I said, majority of the people are investing in stocks or real estate. Stocks caught my eye because these are things that we consume on a day by day basis. We're spending money with these companies on a daily basis. And I'm like, hey, my people, we don't really profit from them, right? We're not profiting from these companies, right? But we're spending consistently, right? So I took a look at the metrics and seeing, how black people were some of the biggest consumers, right? We're the biggest consumer, but we don't own. We're owning, at that time. At that time, I'm like, hey, we own less than 2% of stocks. You know what I mean? I'm like, there's a real disparity here, and so I felt like for me, I want to change the narrative on that, and that's really how I got my start. So I started early investing in names like Square, which is now XYZ, Shopify, Tesla, Roku. So there were some really good investments that panned out well for me. Nvidia, of course, you start even before you start getting into the individual names, you invest in the ETF. So my first two investments were VTI and VOO, right? So I set myself up a brokerage account. At that time, I also had an Acorns account, which Acorns was kind of coming around. So I set myself up a brokerage account with Robinhood, Acorns, and Charles Schwab. Those are like the three things three accounts that I had first. So I'm like, okay, Acorns makes it beginner friendly at the time. They explain things, to you kind of crystal clearly. So from a standpoint of a 16, 17-year-old at the time, there's a lot of things you don't learn. So you're just trying to consistently feed and get as much information as you can. So that's what really got me involved in this thing. I did not start off trading, right? I know a lot of people just jump right head in thinking, hey, you got to come into the game and just immediately start trading. Like, nah, I just started off long term investing. That's always been the principal forefront. Any money that you make trading, I always say you should take it back to long-term investing. So that's really how I got my start. So at the time, 16, 17. So I'm 25 now. It's crazy how much time changed. It's like, man, it's almost been a decade that I've been in my field. And it's like, yo, I'm not even 30 yet, but there's so many experiences that I've had, through the wins, through the losses, right? The ups and the downs. So I'm sure we'll have more time to talk about those. So yeah.
Yeah. So, okay. So let me ask you this. If
Mm-hmm.
somebody was to say that you were a day trader, what
Mm-hmm.
would how would you respond to that?
Yeah, I would definitely say that I'm not a day trader.
Okay.
Um, the reason why I would say that I'm not a day trader realistically is because for one, I don't trade every day, right? Like that's one of the main things that I stress for people is like you do not have to trade every day. Um, I would say back in maybe I would say I'd probably say when I was maybe 18, 19. If someone said that, I would say maybe I'll give them a shot. But I've never been a proponent of trading every single day. What I call, trading every single day causes like trader fatigue, right? So a lot of times people don't realize, but the more that you enter the market, whether winning, losing, it causes a level of fatigue. So you want to be careful of trading every single day, right? And I think a lot of times people think it's this glossy thing where you're going to make money every day and, everyone wins 100% of the time. And that's just not realistic. So that would be my thoughts on that one.
Well, you know what's funny, man, is the stats show day traders the day trading is not a great way to make a consistent income. That most day traders don't make money. One of the things that was interesting to me about you was when you and I talked about that, and I said, okay, so you day trade, and you said you were a swing trader.
Uh-huh.
And I thought that was really interesting for you to make that distinction. In your view, what would you say would be the difference? Like that you said you don't trade every day. So
Uh-huh.
when I'm thinking swing trade, maybe it means sometimes being a contrarian or momentum trader based on
Correct.
what you're doing. So maybe using some technical analysis to make
Yep.
that happen. Tell me more about that in terms of your thought process with that, and also talk a little bit about your love for the stock market in general and how that's been for you so far at the age of 25.
Yeah. So, what I would really illustrate swing trading as is any position for one, if we're going by definition, any position that you hold longer than a day. But my real strategy when it comes to swing trading is to find a position, right? It could be like, for example, right now, I'll give you a couple of trades that, currently I am long in. One of those trades being TTD, the trade desk, right? Trade desk ended up dropping from about $140 all the way down to a low of about 41. Um, and with the trade desk, this is just one good example of a trade I'm in. I went long around like 55, $57, right, with options. So I look for stocks that are either coming close to supports or breaking above resistance. You've mentioned one key word in there, momentum. So I like to play the momentum runs when I can get a solid direction. So you said something about technical analysis, which is important. If you're going to be a day trader, swing trader, even a long-term investor, you should have some knowledge of technical analysis because you could have the right company, but at the wrong time, right?
Mhm.
So my love for this industry is because this industry makes things, ultimately one word is liberation, right? To be able to utilize the companies that make billions, right, of dollars each year, right? And they take in this capital, billions and billions of dollars. For you to actually get a piece of the pie, I feel like is the most liberating thing. So the way that you look at money once you get involved in the market changes, right? Like I don't just look at a dollar, right, just to spend. I look at a dollar, like I look at my dollars, like how can my dollars make more dollars, right? And I think that's the conversations that we should be having more, especially with the access and the level of information that we have at an all-time high. I mean, 30, 40 years ago, it was not easy to open a brokerage account. Even hell, in the 1990s, it was not as easy for us as black and brown people to just go and easily get a brokerage account. The market doesn't know any color. What I always say to people is this is really where the reparations are at. You want reparations, you come to the stock market to get reparations. So my love for this industry is not only because it's changed my life, it's changed my perspective, of course, as well too. but you're never down and out. Be in a situation
Mm,
like when you have this skill set, you have the ability to be able to make money off of your intellect for the rest of your life, leveraging the capital that you have. So I always will have a love for this industry. And this is an industry what I feel like is liberation because it's about you taking your dollars and trusting, right? Obviously, a company to be able to grow, right, from a stock price perspective. But I look at it from the standpoint of we spend so much money on things that don't yield us any return. So why wouldn't I want to be in this space, right? As long as I have a chance, man, I'm you can sign me up. So that's my kind of
mm,
thoughts as far as love in this space. And then just to round it off, when it comes to swing trading, I try not to really get into too many positions at one time, but I try to take the most confident and high probability setups. So I mentioned something like with the trade desk. We also had a position on MU, which is Micron. We caught a position on Tesla. So it's like when we see momentum breaking out, it could be a multitude of things. We may see a lot of orders coming in on a specific stock at a time to make us say, okay, money's moving a lot here. Somebody knows something. We could see price breaking out. We got Uber right now, which we're expecting Uber to go to $110 here soon. Uber's in the middle of breaking out of a bull flag. So when you talk about the technical setup, you got that technical setup plus Uber is a pretty profitable business. So we combine the technicals, the fundamentals, and the news to be able to make decisions on what equities we're going to play swing trades on.
mm. Well, everybody, I'm speaking to Mr. Lawrence Eggleston, and Lawrence is an extraordinary young trader. He's 25 years old. He's a smart brother. He cares about the community, and I like Lawrence not just because he's smart and he's cool, but also he has the same name as my baby brother Lawrence. So that's a cool thing right there. Everybody, if you if you are watching, hit the thumbs up button, and also I want to let you all know that we're really honored that Lawrence is going to actually join us in the Black Business School. He's going to do a Swing Trader Kickstarter weekend that you all can join at 48% off actually for the next 48 hours. So if you're interested in learning some of the things that Lawrence is talking about, you can tell that he knows what he's discussing. The link should be right there in the chat. And also, if you want to get the discount link sent to you via text, text the word money to the number 87948. So text money to 87948, and I will send that link out to you guys also after we get done, and you can join Lawrence for this breakdown. So let me ask you this. So you said something that was really interesting, Lawrence.
Mm-hmm.
You said um, that the stock market is a place to go get reparations. Now,
100%.
yeah, and it's interesting because that type of statement can either be seen as the statement of a revolutionary, or some people might interpret it as a statement made by an Uncle Tom, right? And I'm sure you've seen both, right? Where people sometimes maybe feel that because you have not embraced a pure victimhood mentality, that you're kind of a sellout because you're not sort of waiting for white folks to do what they're supposed to do. But I thought about what you said pretty deeply, and I thought about the word reparations, which is built off the word repair, and we deserve reparations. I assume you agree with me on that, based on what we went through. But when you talk about that word repair, I thought about that and I said, huh, well, nobody really said who's supposed to do the repairing and where the repair, what the nature of the repairing is supposed to come from. Number one, I never thought reparations should just come from the government. Anyway, the government's deep in debt. The money's in the hands of the corporations. I think the corporations should be a part of that. But then number two, by you going and picking up your check, so to speak, by going to the stock market and investing in the very companies that have all the money, and repairing your own generational curses, repairing your own economic situation, repairing things for your own family, your own community, which I know that you care deeply about. I think that is something that we should all think about, right? I mean, especially for us as black men, it seems really important because, especially given that we don't get the jobs like everybody else, we don't get the same opportunities as everybody else. It seems like investing is something brothers are embracing, and we should embrace it even further to the point where we become world leaders in this area. What are your thoughts on anything that I just said?
Nah, I mean that I black people were the first people to be sold on Wall Street. If we're gonna take it there. So I just believe it's our God given right, it's our birthright to go and get these reparations from the stock market. And you talked about one thing about repairing our financial situations as a whole. Um, when you take a look at the wealthiest people, all of them, right, they have something to leverage. Bezos, Musk, all these gentlemen, right? They have stocks, right? They're not rich off of cash, right? They're not billions of dollars worth of cash just sitting around. No, they have billions of dollars worth of assets, right? So the wealthiest people in the world have billions of dollars worth of assets, mainly in stocks as well as real estate. So for me, the way that we really shift the tide is even taking it a step further of how many publicly traded successful black companies do we have on Wall Street, right? So when we speak like that, that's kind of my thought process. Is like, okay, it's one thing to invest and trade in the markets, but it's another thing to go create, right? To produce, right? So creation and production, produce, right? That word produce, those are the two words that I want to stick to right there. So for me, I feel like it's time. You mentioned something about being a revolutionary. One of the things I always used to say to myself in high school, I'm cool with being different. Like I don't like being around the crowd. Like I don't really hang around too many people that are my age. I go to, people who are older than me to seek mentorship and guidance. And I'm comfortable and cool with that because I want to learn. I don't never want to be in a room where I'm the smartest person. I don't never want to be in a room where everyone's talking about other people's lives and our life is not in order, right? So I understand that right now this is one of the biggest. These next 20 years, I'm 25. By the time I'm 45, these next 20 years are how critical it is for our community. So for me, I'm all in on that and changing not just the narrative, but changing the situation. So I bought into that mission, and I just know that it's something divine in me. There's a purpose over my life, and I'm living that, each and every single day. So yeah.
So you're trading with a purpose. So you feel
Mm-hmm.
like this is about more than just the money. It may be personally, I don't know. I'm gonna take some guesses here. Maybe you can help me fill in the void on this. Maybe freedom is part of it, your personal freedom. You're 25, you're not out begging for jobs and all this other stuff. You're creating opportunities for yourself. You become an economic playmaker. It also sounds like you see something in terms of a bigger purpose with the community. I know that you did a lot of work with the good brothers over at Earn Your Leisure, and I love what they're doing as well. In fact, I met you at InvestFest, and I can tell you, it sounds to me like you see some big things kind of happening. In fact, the fact that you're even talking about 20 years from now is very powerful because a lot of people can't see more than a year from now. You know, they can't even think about 2026, let alone 2045. So when you look 20 years from now, what's going through your mind and your spirit as you're sort of thinking about the type of impact you want to have on the world as a result of your commitment to investing and the things that you do?
Yeah, so to take it a step further, 20 years from now, I see Bitcoin, being an asset that's, maybe 500,000. Who knows? Maybe I think it's going to hit a million one day. It might not happen in 20 years. But it's you talk about those liberating opportunities and those liberating chances. Like we have a chance right now to shift the tide, right? And I think you mentioned something in the beginning of this interview where you discuss, people. A lot of people are now investing at a high level. A lot of people are more exposed to it. But now it's time for us to have those tough conversations. I think, especially for young men my age, right? I want to be the leader and an example of what you can be, where you don't have to play sports, you don't have to rap, you don't have to, do the things that might be popular to get to the places where you want to go, right? Because a lot of times I don't feel like we shine enough light on people who are business owners, people who are creators, you know what I mean? People who are investors, right? Everyone gets the limelight if you're a rapper. Like if I was 25 years old and I was decked out in chains and designer and I was hopping on tracks and I had 2 to 3 albums, I have millions of followers. But
Mm.
nah, I'm just a guy that's, talking about investing your money, investing in companies, right? So you don't get as much as the name recognition, which is cool. I'm not doing it for recognition, but I'm doing it for change. You mentioned the word revolution, right? That's what I want. I want to change the game and I want to change how people view investing, right? Particularly my age, because I think a lot of older people are more open to it. But a lot of people my age, I'm talking to them about who the Federal Reserve president is. They like, I don't know who that is. You know what I'm saying? You don't know who Jerome Powell is, but you know your favorite rap artist lyrics. You get what I'm
Mm,
saying? That's it,
mm,
you know, you don't know that there's 12 board members there, right? You don't know those key components and the things that really matter, right? So if we're going to be able to recite lyrics, and we're going to be able to know what's going on in this famous person's life, like everybody talking about Anthony Edwards and what's going on in that brother's life. I like Anthony Edwards. You know what I'm saying? He got some things going on. But why are you worried about what Ant Edwards got going on, but you don't know what's happening in this market? You don't know what's happening with your finances. So we have to really change the discussions and the conversations. And that's what I like to do. And I feel like I've been very good at doing that, galvanizing people, bringing people together to see that when we put our minds to this and we put our dollars right together, we're very powerful. But
mm.
all it takes is us being willing to buy in, right? Buy into the plan, buy into the mission. And it takes a level of sacrifice. Long-term investing, as you know, trading is long-term investing trading is not something that happens overnight. It's not a quick get rich quick. It's not you're going to get rich tomorrow. It's something that really takes patience and discipline and time will tell. So that's kind of my thoughts there.
Well, everybody, I want everybody to know who I'm talking to. I'm speaking with Mr. Lawrence Eggleston, and we're talking about this market. In a minute, we're going to talk about mastering the Trump trade, and I'm going to get his thoughts on some of that. And by the way, Lawrence is going to do us the honor of joining us in the Black Business School. We're going to have a swing trader Kickstarter weekend. So if your goal is to make sure you don't miss out on the next big market opportunity, dig deeper into swing trading and ways to benefit from this really amazing stock market. Look at that link inside the chat. You should find it there. And if you didn't get that link sent to you, if you want to send via text, text the word money to the phone number 87948. So text money to 87948. I'll send you a link. And not only can you join, but you can join at a discount. So Lawrence, let me ask you this. What are your thoughts on the Trump administration in terms of the extra volatility that his tariffs and everything else have put onto the market? How have you kind of played that?
Yeah, so great question. I was waiting on this one. So I want to go back for a second, right? Because Trump was president before. So I want to go back to 2018 specifically.
Hmm.
Trump did very similar things, right? One of the things that I've realized about him over time is he likes to really get people riled up and kind of like push you to the edge
Mm,
to always bring you back to reality. So there was a study, you know, that came out about DT, and that's just what he does. He likes to get people riled up, get people in their emotions. He likes to like kind of test the boundaries. Right? When you think about it at the same time though, he's been an entrepreneur really his whole life. So Donald Trump is a risk taker, right? This is not an individual he's not afraid of risk. So he's kind of willing to push the envelope as far as he's willing to go until one vow breaks, right? He doesn't want to break the relationship with China. He doesn't want to break the relationship with these countries, especially when you talked about the debt, right? As many, you know, as much debt as we're in, he doesn't want these countries to stop buying our bonds, right? So when the bond market starts to really act up, notice he starts to backtrack certain things, right? So when Japan was having some issues early in the year, and then when China was like, "Hey, you better talk nice to us," right? Notice he started to dial back things, and it came in what I call a photo op, right? So as you know, Dr. Boyce, back in 2018, you had a good brother named Stephen Mnuchin. He was the liaison for Donald Trump, right? To really be on the phone and get those trade deals at the time done. So in 2018, you also had the Fed taper tantrum, right? So this was kind of like one of my first, I would say, major experiences because I came in 2016. So we know that from 2008 to 2015, rates were pretty much kept at zero. The Fed started hiking quarter points in 2015 all the way up to 2018. Now, you know, kind of observing the Fed kind of took a strong stance of just raising rates a little bit. Donald Trump wasn't happy about that. You had the trade war. So then in 2018, the market dropped, right? Very similar drop. If you go back to 2018, you've seen the NASDAQ fell about 22% from its high, right? So you had a tap of a bear market. Then on December 24th, 2018, the Dow was down 1,000 points. That was Christmas Eve. The day after that, December 26th, the Dow went back up 1,000 points. But from December 26, 2018, all the way to February 24th, 2020, the market was in a whole uptrend, right? Back for a second, because in September of 2019, what you saw was the trade deal finally got done. One thing that drives this market to the upside is optimism. The second thing that drives the market to the downside is fear. Optimism and fear. Those are the two emotions that really move the market. So when there's a level of optimism, it's not when deals get done. Deals get done, that's like icing on the cake. Okay, it's signed, it's done. But when there's a level of optimism, that's when you see stocks come off their low. So I mentioned that in 2018 and in 2019, right? Optimism was what fueled the rally. Even if you notice right now, deals are not done, but a level of optimism is there. People don't want to miss things, right? They don't want to be late. So when the optimism changes, the market starts to come back up. And the final thing I'll say, and I'll throw it back to you, when you talk about the Trump trade, right? Really, I would say when it comes to mastering the Trump trade, there's always a variable that he could always throw a wrench in the other way. I think it's about being sharp and being open minded. I think if you get caught on the things that he says, you lose sight of what the opportunity is. So
Mm-hmm.
back in April, I mean, February, March, I was live. I'm teaching every day. And my people would say I was begging people. I'm like, yo, you need to be buying right now. This is the best opportunity you're gonna get to buy because the market hadn't taken a breather since really 2023. So you had certain stocks that were going down to the levels they hadn't been at since 2023, or certain stocks that retraced 20 or 30% from a high that were really good businesses. And what I always tell people is the business is different from the stock price. So the stock price may fall 30%, but the business didn't. And I'll throw it back to you.
Man, I really like that. I mean, I like the fact that you're thinking so deeply about the process in the market. I mean, this market with Trump, one of the things I was noticing, I mean, you talked a lot about a lot of things that I believe in, fear and greed and how that kind of drives investor behavior. And you talked about Trump and the kind of person he is. And if you're a person that gets caught up in everything he says, then his bullying tactics are gonna scare you or get you emotionally off balance. And the best way to respond to a bully is to not let the bully rattle you, because he's playing with your head. And China just they stood up to him, and he did what every bully does. He backed down a little bit because he saw the bond market starting to sort of respond in a negative way, and now he makes this announcement today that that they're close to making this agreement, which I don't even know if they're really telling the truth about that. But the fact you saw the market just rally like that, that was easily predictable. Anybody could have predicted what was going to happen today. And I now I will say this: I think that Trump has caused damage to long-term economic relationships. He's damaged the reputation of the United States. He's shifted economic fundamentals in a way that have yet to be revealed, but will persist long after all of his good news announcements arrive, like tax cuts and all that. But I think for anybody that really wants to benefit in this market, if you know what you're doing and you're in there carefully, I think that this volatility is a good thing, especially if you mess around with stock options and all that. There's a lot of money to be made with this. So let me tell you this. Let me ask you about this, man. One thing I've noticed is that a lot of guys your age, maybe sometimes I think that they blurred those lines between trading stocks and just flat out gambling. I don't know if you noticed like the rise in things like sports betting, and I give the guys that earn your leisure a lot of credit because they actually brought this up. They're one of the few brothers out here that I've seen that really talked about how black men are being used to market sports betting to other black men, and a lot of people they sometimes even in the stock market they think they're investing, but they're actually gambling. Have you noticed any of this, and did you have any thoughts on sort of what you've seen happening right now?
Yes, sir. Really great question. I mean, I've seen it for like over the past, I would say a lot. It wasn't as many, for one, it wasn't as many people that were online teaching investing and trading before 2020, right? So I would say when 2020 came around And then we also let's tie this in here with the sports betting piece, right? DraftKings, which, as you know, which was a SPAC, right? A special acquisition company. That's how they came to market, right? When it came to DraftKings, um, the piece that I would say is that a lot of people just sell to people like, hey, this trading is easy, right? You can just follow my signals, et cetera, right? Like you had a lot of people saying, hey, you could just follow my signals, or to your point, take my picks, right? Just take my picks, take my picks, take my picks, which is a dangerous way, gambling. That's just the way of gambling, right? Because you truly don't know. I talk about this a lot. If you're trading and you don't have a trading view, you're doing yourself a disservice. Because if you're not taking a look at something technical to give you a decision on whether you're going to take a trade or not, it's all the same thing. Whether you're betting on an over or under, or whether you're taking a call or a put, it's the same thing. If you don't have, if you're not taking time to actually study the concepts and the principles and know what a double top is or know what a double bottom is, these are technical chart patterns, then you're putting yourself in harm's way. And so I do believe that there is a lot of times a lot of marketing to people to say, hey, open up a brokerage account and trade this 0 day option. Now, Dr. Boyce, this is where I'm gonna go next. Gonna go next. Me and you, we sell options, and I teach my people how to sell covered calls, and we sell cash secured puts. These are things we talk about. We don't sell covered calls and cash secured puts longer than a couple weeks. Why is that? That's because those options have high theta. So the
Okay.
buyer of them has a high probability that those options are going to expire worthless.
Yeah.
But what happens is that people are getting addicted to these 0 days. Now, take it to before 2020. You used to have options on the SPY and the QQQ expire Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, 3 days a week, right? And for certain options, sometimes only 2 days a week. The point I make is you have 0 days now: Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday,
Woo. Woo.
and that speaks to the level of gambling that's happening. Because when options first started, especially on the SPY and the QQQ, now this is just something I studied, not something I experienced. But options only expired on the indices on Fridays, right? When options were first created, right? They were not every single day. Definitely, that's been something that happened more recently. But the more popularized that options trading has became, the more they've pushed this gambling mentality of, hey, we're going to give you access and exposure to trade 0 day options every day, right? And I always tell people, I feel like at minimum 30 to 45 days expiration on your options if you're a buyer. And that's just like bare minimum. That's even if you might be taking a day trade. I'm like, hey, put time on there, put 30 days on there, because you never know truly how it's going to play out. You could do all the technical analysis in the world. Tariff man could get on the screen and say something. Next thing you know, NASDAQ and the SPY flip down 2%. So I would agree that there is a sense and a level of gambling mindset right now. And it's being pushed on people, on the masses. So those are my thoughts.
Well, I think you hit the nail on the head. A lot of the options activity is very disturbing, actually. And what people don't know is that there's a rising gambling addiction problem in America. My wife's a therapist, and she said that her office and the office of a lot of therapists are being filled up with people that whose families are being destroyed from gambling debt. I mean, people talk about taking their own lives over gambling debts, because once you get in that hole, it's really hard to get out. And I think that for guys, the young guys especially that are thinking about getting into investing, really know what it means to be an investor, know what it means to own an asset, and sometimes just keep the asset. And also with swing trading, I actually think swing trading can work quite well if you kind of know what's going on, you know how to have the discipline to do it, and I also just think in general, I think all of us should be a part of the stock market. I mean, the very same companies that are selling you products why shouldn't you make money right next to those companies? So I love this. Let me ask you this, man. Did I see something that said that you had $40,000 in your account when you were in high school? Is that right?
Yeah, man. So when I first started, like just me saving, like I said, I was working two jobs. So that was really how I was able to really have that amount of money at that time. So just through saving. And then I started investing as well too. So by the time I got to college, I was roughly within that ballpark through just me just working countless of hours, saving my money. I used to sweep at a barbershop. This is something I didn't share earlier. But I actually taught like one of my main mentors. I always give him his flowers. He's probably on here tonight listening. Is Dana Rivers. So Dana Rivers, he was a person like he works out with me now, but he was just the main like mentor because I didn't really grow up with a father, but I spent a lot of time in a barbershop.
Mm,
And to me, that was what was really important because I got to see, I mean, in the barbershop, you see every type of man. You see the man who's, a lawyer, a doctor coming in from work. You get to see the knucklehead, wannabe gangsters, wannabe rappers coming in smelling like weed, at 7, 8 o'clock at night, trying to get their haircut last minute because they're trying to look good for the honeys, right? And then you also get the man who's going to sit you down and discuss with you, young man. Here's the things that you should be looking to do. Here's some advice. Here's some of the mistakes that I made, but here's the mistakes that you don't have to. So honestly, I just listen to all of it. And I've just always been a sponge. Like outside of this, when I'm talking investing, I'm really quiet. And a lot of people are like, yo, L, you good? You quiet? I'm just listening because one of the things my grandmother taught me when I was 7, 8 years old, she said, listen more than you speak. And she said, if you don't got nothing to add value to people, shut your mouth. So like I
wow.
always listen to hear things. I like to listen to learn. So super, super duper important. But yeah, that was really how. So
Wow.
I mean, I was, sweeping at a barbershop. They was paying me. Got my first job at 15, second job at 17, and just really went all in and just saving, saving, saving. Started investing in VOO, VTI, Shopify, Square, Tesla, Nvidia, whole 9 yards. But yeah, that was really how I got my start.
That's really cool. Now your grandmother, tell me about your grandmother. What is she still alive?
Unfortunately, man. So that was really one of the. I feel like those experiences as a young man, really a kid at the time. But those were the things that really made me. My grandmother, she passed away actually, May 24th, 2008. So I was
Mm.
9 years old at the time. I was born in 1999. My grandmother, she had cancer. She had cancer since '02. She died in '08. My family didn't find out till around like '04, '05. She kept it a secret. So she lived like
Wow.
six years with cancer. But ultimately, I was with my grandfather, who my grandfather actually passed in 2021. Um, with my grandfather, me and him, we would go and take her to the cancer research facility. And she would do chemotherapy, etc. Really good, great facility in Buffalo, New York. Took really great care of her. I mean, she fought hard, but those were times where I mean, I spent probably the last 2 years of her life. I spent probably I mean, at least 50 to 60% of the time with her. You know what I mean? And
Mm.
just to see her, at the time as a kid, you don't really know what's kind of going on. But then I kind of picked up on something one time when we took her for what I'm thinking, hey, just a regular doctor's visit. But then she came back, she took a nap, and then she woke up and she was like, baby, it's morning time. Why you ain't, did you brush your teeth yet? I'm like, yeah, I already brushed my teeth. It's like 5 p.m. in the afternoon. So that's when as a kid, that's when I knew something was wrong. Cause I'm like, why is my grandmother asking me at 5 p.m. did I brush my teeth yet? Like it's morning time. You know what I mean? So that's when I really knew something was wrong. But those experiences what drives me. You know what I mean? Like I want to spend time. You mentioned something about time in the beginning of this. Is like time is the most valuable asset on this earth. It's not how much stocks you have. It's not because you can always make more money. You know what I'm saying? You can always open up another business, but you never get time back. Once time is gone, it's gone. So that's the most valuable commodity to me is spending time with your loved ones. So those are my thoughts.
Wow. What was your grandmother's name?
Eunice, Eunice,
Eunice. Eunice, right?
yes sir.
Okay, well, shout out to Miss Eunice. Everybody type Eunice in the chat. Let's bring her into the chat. I'm sure she's very proud of her grandson. Because my grandmother, Felicia, our Panther. It's funny they call you. I heard they call you the Panther. Is that right?
Yeah, yep, yes,
That's
sir.
crazy because our logo on the Black Business School is a
Yep.
Panther, and my logo is named Felicia after my grandmother.
Wow.
Yeah, grandmother, and she also passed from cancer. So
Wow.
it's crazy, right? And that's amazing, man. That's a beautiful story, and I love the wisdom that they gave you, man. I mean, I think that's so valuable. I mean, that's like worth $1 trillion worth of gold, man. I think we should really take our time to really understand the wealth that our elders have passed to us. They might not have gave us a whole lot of money, but you give that kind of wisdom, you've turned that into a multi-million-dollar scenario for yourself at a young age, man. You ain't nobody's victim. You're a winner. And really, this is the beginning. That's the cool part. When I was your age, I had a guy that was my age, and he said, "You have to be as old as I am to know how young you are." And I didn't get it at the time, but now I get it. Now I get it. There's so many things that have, I think when I was 25, let me see, I think I was teaching college. I was trying to do good stuff. You know what I mean? Like yourself. And but it's a lot of things were still kind of coming together. You know what I mean? I didn't know what the next 20 years are going to look like, man. But I love you got the right attitude, brother. And I want everybody to know that Lawrence, I specifically asked him to join us in the Black Business School, and we're going to do a Swing Trader Kickstarter weekend. Anybody, give me a yes in the chat if you want to learn more about swing trading. I know a lot of you are in here live. So if you want to learn this thing, I'm going to share that link with you. I put it in the chat. If you don't see it, let me know if you don't see it, and it should be pinned, and you can grab it. Also, if you want me to text you the link, and you can actually join at a discount. It's going to be this weekend, the weekend of the 17th, and it's going to be 3 days, and you're just going to go through a lot of stuff. I know that you give a lot of value. Do you have any thoughts or anything you want to share about what you plan to do this weekend?
Yeah, first off, I just want to say I appreciate the opportunity to really come into the Black Business School to be able to add value to the people. So I think if you're a beginner, this is something, even if you might be a bit advanced, but this could give you a really great opportunity to learn properly on how to effectively swing trade in the market. I think a lot of times people are coming in at it to be, super risky or think that they're going to come in and just day one know exactly what to do. But it takes time. Anything worth having in life takes time to learn. And you're going to be given a step by step process that you can follow and you can take to DIY it, right? Do it yourself. I think a lot of times people look to rely upon people outside of themselves to get the job done. When at the same time, you have to know what moves to make for yourself. So I think that's the most powerful thing that I could say that you're really going to be getting out of this weekend. So I know we put together an action packed, 3 days, and looking forward to more. So I appreciate that.
Yeah, brother, I'm excited, man. It's funny, yeah. When when we talked at InvestFest, I remember saying, okay, this guy's special. He's doing some good stuff. I didn't know you then, but I know you now, I'm super proud of you, man. I have a lot of respect for what you're doing, and I look forward to working with you this weekend. And I want everybody to know that the floor will be Lawrence's. I'm gonna let him break down everything he does as a swing trader. And did you now have you hit the $1 million status in terms of your portfolios or whatnot, if I may ask that?
Yeah, man, definitely. So I had a situation where I have hit it. I had a situation a couple of years back, which I kind of documented as well too, my process. So the thing about you mentioned about being younger, right? It's super important to always learn who you can trust and who you can't trust. So I
Mm,
had a lot of people around me in my 2021 to 23-year-old years where you can't always trust people with certain things. You know what I mean? And sometimes when you leave certain things in other people's hands, bad things can happen. So eclipsing that mark, but then, suffering some setbacks and some losses, but then climbing back up to get to that point, just by, kind of keeping it brief. But when you trust other people a bit too much, it could be something that's a detriment to you. So those are mistakes that, I've learned from, people have seen me bounce back from, and I'm here 10 toes down climbed my way back up from, even points where probably people may was like, man, how is this guy? You mentioned, sometimes people get down on those low moments, but nah, I always find a way to climb back up because to me, you can only be down for so long when it pertains to your mindset. Mindset is so key. So, yes, sir. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. There's no successful great person anywhere that I've ever met who hasn't gone through some very difficult experiences, setbacks. Life is not fair. The world will not feel sorry for you. You
Yep.
must, what determines your ability to win is your willingness to fight.
Yep.
So if you want to build a heaven, you got to go through hell. You
Yep.
know, tough people are built from tough experiences, man. So
Yep.
you have the right attitude already, and I encourage you, keep on going, man, because that's how we're gonna make black people great again, all the way across the board. To steal the way Trump uses, I don't care how he uses. I'm talking about how we gonna use it. So everybody, this is Mr. Lawrence Eggleston. And we are doing a Kickstarter weekend for those that want to get into swing trading and dig deeper and learn directly from Lawrence. He's going to be a guest trainer in the Black Business School, guest scholar. And if you want to join us, the link should be in the chat. You can hit that link in the chat, or you can also text the word money to the number 87948. I'll send the link out tomorrow as well, where you can get a 48% discount on that weekend. And it's an honor to partner with you, brother. I look forward to working with you, and maybe we could do something live as well, in person at some point too. All right. Well, have a good night, everybody, and thank you again, Lawrence, man. And I enjoyed hearing your story. And shout out to Miss Eunice for helping to give us one of our great young black leaders, or one of our great young black financial thinkers. I think this brother's going to build a nation. So I hope y'all will support him as much as I would like to. So God bless you. Have a good night, everybody, and I'll see you soon, Lawrence. All right.
Yes, sir.
All right,
Peace.
my
Thank
brother.
you.